Wow, this one kind of threw me off, at least something I wasn't expecting with the Joy-Cons. Literally just got announced today, which I think honestly kind of changes the game forever when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 and like limited edition controllers, at least limited edition Joy-Cons. But obviously we don't know yet. It's just as of right now, and we'll get into it as we see to that part of the video, but kind of mind blown. But guys, that's not why you're here. Well, I guess, yeah, that is why you're here. You're here to see everything that has happened with the Nintendo Switch 2 today. And today there was a lot of stories to be going over, but you already know what I'm about to say. If you guys haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're trying to reach maybe 18,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I don't know if I want to commit to trying to make 18,000 subscribers possible for the end of the month, but we'll see. We'll see. I go to New York at the end of the month. We've been uploading every single day towards this YouTube channel, everything Switch 2 related. We have been going crazy on the YouTube channel, so thank y'all for the love and support. If we don't hit 18,000 subscribers by the end of the month, that's okay. But we're definitely going to attempt it. All right, let's jump straight into the news. So this one is the one I honestly was not expecting to see, but Nintendo has actually shared more images of the Switch 2 Joy-Cons, revealing the fact that you can actually take the shells off of the Joy-Cons. Nintendo's already said that more colors are on the way, which made sense, but the part that I was not expecting was the fact that you can take these parts off officially. Nintendo's kind of advertising this, kind of similar to how the PlayStation 5, where you can take the little pieces off the system to replace it with different shells, I guess is what you would call that. Nintendo's advertising this as a thing, which makes me wonder if they're going to make it where you don't have to buy new Joy-Cons if you don't want new Joy-Cons. If they're going to sell shells separately for these controllers, which I think is actually going to be pretty exciting. However, the thing that I am curious about is it kind of makes it look like that it's always going to be the black Joy-Cons is what they're going to go with a little bit of color. I don't know if I'm misinterpreting how they worded it and what they showed off, but it looks like what they plan is to always have that traditional black coloring that is on the Switch 2 Joy-Cons to remain there on top of whatever color they're going to sell. Which I feel like some people will be really happy about that, but then some people are not going to like that because there might be people that want, like for myself, full-on red Joy-Cons for the Switch 2. So I don't know what this means. I don't know how this is going to play factor into whenever Nintendo does limited edition consoles, because you know they always did the limited edition Joy-Cons. So are they going to be able to do that? Is it going to be exactly what we're used to, or is it going to be something completely different, a little bit of color? I don't know. I think it's very interesting, and I think it's really cool that they're making it where you don't have to, at least as of right now, what it looks like, you're not going to have to buy new Joy-Cons if you want these new colors. And hopefully Nintendo sells the official patterns. If not, there's going to be so many people out there that will sell the shell for the Joy-Cons. It's going to make it, honestly, really open to a lot of customization with these controllers. We've seen people do incredible things with Joy-Cons already, but I feel like the fact that there's now more ways to customize the Joy-Con is going to open the door to people making some really cool inventions with the Joy-Cons, at least the second edition of Joy-Cons. I don't know, this one was really exciting and honestly really threw me off this morning to see this being a feature that Nintendo's advertising. They talked to Yoshida again about the Nintendo Switch 2, because I think a lot of people were thrown off by the comments that he made on the Switch 2 a few weeks ago. So someone asked him more about the Switch 2 and his thoughts. And there was an article talking about more of what he said, but this is kind of the rundown of the main things that was talked about. He talked about how he's hoping that Nintendo continues to innovate and not lose their identity, which he did say that Nintendo lost their identity with the Switch 2's reveal. So it's interesting to see him kind of talk about that, but have like a little bit of an updated statement, better wording here. So I guess he still stays strong to how he felt that it was kind of losing its identity. He said that his most anticipated game was Duskbloods, which honestly kind of makes sense that that is his most anticipated game out there, as Duskbloods looks very much like Bloodborne. And I think this guy had some sort of part in Bloodborne before he left PlayStation before. So this probably does excite him to see sort of a, I don't know if continuation of Bloodborne is the correct thing to say here, because this is definitely not a continuation, but it's definitely heavily inspired, I feel like it's safe to say, and I'm sure that's why he's very excited to play that one. And he also said that prices were always going to raise for this stuff, even before Nintendo did it. Sounds like he's telling people to calm down at Nintendo with lower the price. And it's unfortunate, since Nintendo was the first one to do these price increases, they're always going to be looked at as the people that started it. But as this guy said, it was always going to happen. And you know, we're seeing it with Xbox. You're about to see it with PlayStation probably in a few months from now. Let's just see. I don't think it's going to be as bad as what people are thinking. I don't feel like $80 games are going to be a normal thing. And we'll talk about why, because we have a statement with Doug Bowser regarding that. That we'll talk about later in the video. But there was more said regarding this that you guys should definitely take a look at the article if you get a chance. I think it's really cool to see him continuing to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2, as I know he said that he has always been a major fan of Nintendo. So this one's a little bit interesting because we know that Nintendo Labo is impossible to get onto the Nintendo Switch 2 as of right now. Because if you look at the backwards compatible games that are having issues, when it came to the first party side, Labo were things that was talked about, and honestly, I don't think there's a way to fix that, because this tweet is hoping that they're going to be able to fix it, but I'm pretty sure Nintendo has flat out said that they're not going to be able to bring Labo to the Switch 2, but they've been updating that article where it shows all the backwards compatibility issues of games every now and then. We'll probably have a more updated article with that from Nintendo in a few weeks. But Game Explain Andre has actually shown and pointed out that if you look at the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Nintendo Switch 2 edition of the game, the Labo goggles is still an option within that game, which is very weird considering that Labo is not an option for Switch 2 as of right now, and I'm pretty sure it's been flat out confirmed that it is impossible to get Labo on Switch 2. But it does make you wonder, is it possible that Nintendo could maybe in the future re-release Labo for Switch 2 or be making just a full-on VR headset? I've said it for many years, I believe Nintendo has wanted to get back into VR for the longest time, and I think there's more to the fact that a Nintendo Switch 2 camera is being sold, because I think that is just the start of Nintendo wanting to get back into VR, and maybe we'll hear something about that soon. I could be going crazy. Nintendo VR might not be happening, but I do think it's interesting that this is still an option within the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of the game, considering that it's not going to work. You would have thought that Nintendo probably would have taken that out completely, right? I don't know. I think it's interesting, and who knows? We'll see what happens with Nintendo Labo. Okay, I put this in here because I know this is coming to the Switch 2 at some point. But the brand new Gears of War game, well, actually, it's not a brand new game. It's a remaster of a remaster. But they are remaking the Ultimate Edition of Gears of War, and it has been announced today. I think it might be out already. I don't know. It's being retailed for $40. It's coming to PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. Now you may be asking yourself, Max, why are you talking about this? This is not coming to the Switch 2. No, I disagree. This is definitely coming to the Switch 2, and I guarantee you whenever there's another Nintendo Direct, you're probably gonna see it get announced there. It is not uncommon that Nintendo will not talk about the Switch 2 or Switch 1 release of a game until an upcoming Direct. For example, when Persona was announced for all these multi-platform deals with, you know, PlayStation, well, it's always been a PlayStation, Xbox, PC, all that stuff, the Switch announcement was the very last time it got announced, and it was at a Nintendo Direct. And I guarantee you with these Xbox games, they are saving the announcement for it at Nintendo Direct whenever that happens. Maybe there's a Summer Direct next month. Who knows? But I definitely expect to see this coming to the Switch 2, as Phil Spencer has talked about how he plans to support the Switch 2, and I'm pretty sure he said he loves the Switch 2, and they obviously love working with Nintendo. They've done a very good job with the Switch 1, and I expect the Switch 2 to have a lot of support from Xbox. In fact, I'm expecting things like the Doom game coming to the Switch 2, maybe even Indiana Jones. There is going to be a lot of Xbox support coming to Switch 2, and it hasn't even been announced yet, but I know it will be announced at some point, whether an Xbox presentation or an upcoming Nintendo Direct. Stay tuned, you're gonna be able to experience Marcus and Friends' journey in the Gears of War. I'm telling you, it's coming to Switch 2. Don't call me crazy. I know it's going to happen. Oh man, y'all are doubting me. I already know that y'all are saying in the comments that it's not going to happen. Watch, it will happen. We're going to come back to this point a few weeks from now and we'll be like, wow, Max was right. I thought this was interesting. Nintendo actually has revealed the fact that the Nintendo Switch 2 hardware has been in development since 2019. I feel like we haven't seen anybody really talk about when they started development of a console. And I just think it's interesting that they started 2 years after the Switch 1. Really interesting to see this happen, and I'm curious what the development cycle of the console was like within COVID, for example, because I would think that 2020, they were still in early phases of the Switch 2, so having to develop a full-on brand new gaming console in the middle of all that, especially as we worked from home, all that type of stuff, I feel like that probably was very interesting. And I hope that someone asked more questions about that, because the Switch 2 probably had most of its development during that time, at least a lot of the big details of it. So it probably was a very interesting time to work on a gaming console. And I know like PS5 and Xbox, they released in 2020, but I'm sure they had a lot of the hard programming details done by the time, I mean, there was a few months in between that, but I'm sure it was way more interesting from the Switch 2 perspective, considering it was in early development. But I don't know, I just thought that was a very interesting statement from Nintendo. All right, so they actually interviewed Doug Bowser regarding Nintendo Switch 2 software prices, and what he says kind of goes with what I had been saying a few weeks ago regarding $80 games, because everyone has been going crazy over the $80 games because they think that everything's going to be $80, which, like I've said many times before, I think when it comes to Nintendo, it is going to be very select properties. But let's read what Doug Bowser had to say. We're not trying to set a fixed price for all of them. We look at each one and determine the price based on depth, development that's gone into the game, and its longevity. For example, here in the US, the price we announced for Mario Kart was $79.99, but Donkey Kong Bonanza is $69.99. That's a variable price point, and we'll be looking at it as we go along. Like I said many times before, every game from Nintendo is not going to be $80. In fact, I still stay true to what I said. I think that we're probably getting an $80 Switch 2 game maybe once every other year. I think they're going to look at things like Smash Bros, Animal Crossing, a 3D Mario, 3D Zelda. They're going to look at that and be like, ah, yeah, we can charge $80 for that. Everything else, I think, is going to be $70. I think the fact that Donkey Kong Bonanza is $70 kind of proves what we just talked about, and I really don't think we have anything to worry about. $80 is still a lot, but a lot of people are under the influence thinking that we're going to see $80 Switch 2 games all the time, when I strongly feel that that is not the case here. Which, I would love to hear what you guys think, what you think would be an $80 game from Nintendo. I know this is a very controversial topic that is probably going to get a lot of people mad, but I definitely want to hear what you think Nintendo would charge $80. Like, just a full honest answer. Don't be like, oh, they're charging $80. I'm not buying the system. Don't be one of those guys. I'm actually asking a question here. I want to hear from you guys. And for our last story, there's a analyst over in Japan that is now saying that 2025 is going to be the year of Nintendo due to the recent announcement that GTA 6 will be delayed, which I think is very interesting to see. And I think, honestly, I could see that happening because as of right now, there's not too many crazy games that we know about coming from other companies other than, you know, like PlayStation's got the Ghost of Yotai. I forgot what other else, but there's a few other games out there. And if Nintendo has more announcements coming to this year for the Switch 2, then yeah, they might have a chance to be the big calling for this year, which I think everyone's going to be talking about this system for the rest of the year. So it's going to be interesting to see. Definitely very surprising to see. Well, I'm not going to say surprising, but I feel like for those that were hating on the system, it's kind of crazy that the system is so controversial that now it could be the year of Switch 2, which is just interesting to see. And like I said, Nintendo fans suck at boycotting when it comes to Nintendo. Nintendo's the only company that gets away with stuff. It's actually insane. Guys, that is everything I have for you. I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say with everything that we talked about today. I feel like it's going to be a field day in the comments, but we'll see. Guys, I've been talking for way too much. Make sure to backslash that subscribe button, like the video, check out the Twitter, check out the Discord, check out the Instagram, all that good stuff in the description below. Monado Marine membership, $5 a month, helps out the channel tremendously. I will see you guys in the next video. You're probably wondering, why am I speeding this up like crazy right now? My phone battery, or not phone battery, my camera battery is about to die, and if this dies while I'm recording, then I'm going to have to refilm this whole thing that I just did. So I need to end the recording now. See you guys in the next video. Bye!